If you're looking for a way to level up your wax seal game, then I definitely have some ideas for you. In this video, I'll be going through some of my favorite ways to creatively approach wax seals in order to make them your own. Let's start with one of my very favorites, the Wedgwood or two-tone design, although this technique is not limited to just two colors. Let me show you how we make it. In addition to your stamper and your wax sticks, you're going to need a palette knife for this tutorial, or something similar. And we're going to break from my usual rule of working on the low setting. You want hot wax for this one. You're also going to need to warm up this palette knife. You can either place it on a candle warmer or a wax melting furnace, or if you don't have one of those, you can do what I do and just carefully place it near a flame. Make sure it's not touching the flame, but you do want it to get very hot. Once everything is prepped, you're going to place the wax directly onto your unchilled stamper. So we're not even chilling the stamper this time around. We're working very hot. So please be careful not to burn yourself. And then you're going to take your hot palette knife and you're going to scrape everything off. The extra hot wax gives us a little bit more work time, and the hot palette knife helps to cut through the wax while not making it cool down as you're working on it. And so you have just a little bit more time to work and manipulate everything that's happening on your stamper. Now, this takes some time and some practice. Keeping everything warm is the key. Once it gets too cool, things start to pop out and you start to have more problems. It's very frustrating. But if you keep that palette knife nice and hot, I find that that's really the secret. And keeping the edges, touching both sides of the edges with that knife, that'll keep you from kind of digging into the relief by accident. And if you have some smaller details that your knife just isn't catching, go ahead and scrape it out with your finger. But you want to get that surface nice and clean. Once your stamper is ready, it's time to go in with some regular temperature or a low temp hot glue gun, and you're going to pour as you normally would. So you have it nice and low to the ground, 1 or 2 pumps, and you're going to elongate it for an oval just like this one. If you need more help with that, I'll have a video linked. But it's time to reveal our beautiful stamper. So this is the Secret Lock stamper, and I just love how this technique works with it. And there's a bunch of different variations. I've just been using two tones, but there are so many creative possibilities if you want to use multiple colors. It just takes longer. And obviously there's more room for mistakes and stuff, but I mean, what a beautiful result, don't you think? But Katrina, I don't have a palette knife. Well, you don't need one, honey. You're going to put that hot wax down and you're going to place your stamper on, but you're going to smash it and try and get as much excess removed as possible. Then you're just going to go in with your finger and you're going to carefully carve out by hand all of the raised sections. Now, is this a little tedious? Yes. It's not quite as dangerous because you're not dealing with the hot palette knife, and it takes a little bit longer, but honestly, I found that this technique works just as well, and it's the technique that I used exclusively until I learned about the palette knife secret. So it's a great option if your husband is not an oil painter and you don't have a palette knife laying around. And I promise you'll still get the same beautiful result. Doesn't this look straight out of Wedgwood? I love it! And while I favor the buttercream in this tutorial for our center section for the relief area, there are really so many different possibilities. You can see the gold on the buttercream or the gold on the black. Obviously not just what I have here, but it's such a fun effect and I just love it. It's definitely one of my favorites from this whole tutorial series, but I can't wait to show you the next one. Now let's dive into our abstract watercolor designs. I love the potential for this style, and it's so easy. Now, there are a couple ways that you can do this. You can either warm up your wax sticks individually and then spread the hot wax onto your stamping mat in order to create kind of a streak of wax, but I found it's actually easier to just place your hot wax down and scrape it with a stamper. Your goal is to get kind of this thin run of wax. Now you're going to want to trim it down to size. You kind of have to eyeball it, but this one is definitely too big, even if I'm going to use a larger oval stamp. So you just need to trim it down to size so it'll fit and prepare your arrangement. Here I have 2 colors. Next, you're going to pour your wax for your stamper. And again, we're back to using our regular temperature. So it's hot, but it is a lower temperature. So we won't have any of those bubbles or any boiling. Then you're just going to place your wax streak right on top. And again, you saw that I trimmed it down because it was still a little bit too long. You have a little bit of time to fuss with this, but you do want to be ready to go. As soon as it's on, you can already see how it's melting. You're going to place your wax stamper just as you always would and wait for it to cool. Once the wax is no longer moving as you wiggle the stamper, it's time to peel it off and reveal your beautiful design. How beautiful is that? We've got the white for the swan and the blue for the water, but it's just a little bit more abstract. I'm going to show you this again because I just think it's so magical. So we did a darker color as the base last time. This time we're doing our buttercream color, which, as you're probably already figuring out, is one of my very favorites. And we're using the dusty blue and the sequoia over top of it. Now I'm placing down my forget-me-not stamper, which I think that the placement of the wax will just be beautiful, the way it will flow with the bend and the curve of those flowers, and we end up with this beautiful result. So as you can see, there are endless possibilities. I've kind of had very specific colors out while I've been making this tutorial series, but I just love the overall effect. I think this is an underutilized design style and one that you should definitely try. I mean, maybe it's the watercolor artist in me, but I think this is stunning. Up next, we're going to look at our confetti wax seals. This one is just a party on a wax seal, am I right? This one is a great way to use up old wax seals, or if you just have some oops wax laying around. You're going to take those and you're going to chop them up into tiny little pieces, and I have found the smaller the better. I mean, wax seals aren't that big, so you want to get them real tiny. So then we're just going to proceed as normal. So you're going to have your melted wax, whether it's from a spoon or obviously I'm using a hot glue gun here. You're going to pour it down close to the surface, and then as soon as that is ready, you're going to place your confetti right on top. Now my main tip here is I like to take either some scissors or I'll honestly just use my finger and tap those pieces down. The farther in and the more melted they get, the better result overall, and you won't have kind of some weird wrinkles and your edge will be more even overall. And once everything is cooled, you're ready to reveal the result. And some of those areas that have kind of the wrinkled, that's from any shavings that didn't melt completely. So that's why we tap it in. This allows the flakes to melt fully, and again, you want to do it kind of all the way around because anything that's on the edge will also end up having kind of that irregularity. Now, personally, I kind of like the irregularity. I think it adds to the character of a wax seal, but if you want that perfectly rounded wax seal, I'll have some tips linked for you in the description. But overall, this fun and playful wax seal style is a great way to experiment with color and to just explore your design aesthetic overall. I hope that you love it as much as I do. Now let's explore a way to take our wax seals to fine art. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some printed artwork, whether it is a notepad like I'm using right now with some of my own printed artwork on it, or some other printed art that you have, and you're going to trace around it, or you're going to use a 1-inch crafter's hole punch to get that nice shape. If you are cutting out yourself, make sure that you cut just within that pencil line so that A, it doesn't show up, and it's the correct size. Once the artwork has been prepped, you're ready to lay down the wax. And for this tutorial, I like to use maybe 1.5 pumps instead of just kind of 1 pump, a little extra wax to create a good lip. Then you're going to place the design down and press your stamper. Now I'm using a blank stamper for this one, so it's nice and easy, but you can probably use a design. There just might be a little bit more of a bump on there. But look at all of the fun variety we can get with this design. Using different colors or different artwork, I mean, really the possibilities are endless. So I stuck with my notepad paper for this one because I like the consistency of the design and it's my own painting, so that was kind of fun. But there's a lot of different ways to explore this and experiment. This next design is nothing very new to wax seals, but I have a new technique that I'm excited to share with you. Now these are rose petals that I've saved from my own garden, and I dried them out and I saved them for year-round use with my wax seals. And with wax seals, I found that I usually prefer to have really crumpled petite petals. Once you have a good number of your petals prepped, you're going to place it in the center of your stamping mat and you're going to create a little hole in the middle. Maybe a little bit smaller than the actual size of your wax stamper, and then you're going to place the hot wax right in the middle of it. Now you want it to overlap the petals just a little bit, but even if they don't, we'll fix that in just a moment. We're going to place our stamper, press it down, and go back in and place the petals right on that hot wax. You want to like really push them in there so they stick. Once the wax has cooled, it's time for the fun part. I like to blow away the extra petals. Now you don't have to do this, and it is admittedly kind of messy, but I just have fun doing it. It's kind of like blowing on a dandelion and letting the seeds fly everywhere. But I think the process for this one is so unique and fun. If you're interested in more ideas for using flowers in your wax seals, make sure that you're subscribed because we have a full video dedicated to floral wax seals coming very soon. For our final wax seal tutorial today, we have the highlighted or the gilded wax seal. It's a beautiful way to embellish a stamper that you already have and love. To do this, you're going to place your stamper as you normally would, following all of our favorite advice and tips. And again, if you need more help with that, I'll have a tutorial linked down for you below. Now this perfectly round wax seal needs a little bit more pizzazz, so we're going to take this gold pen and we're going to carefully drag it across the top of the highlighted areas to really show off the relief design. Now the paint that I used in a previous creative wax seal tutorial video is no longer available, so I have been hunting high and low for something that I liked just as much, and this Deco Color pen is great. It's an oil-based pen. I find that it works really well. It is very inky, so you really want to dab it off, but look at how beautiful these different highlights are. I mean, just stunning. It really brings out some of the character of these wax seals. I recently picked up this acrylic paint version because I wanted to try some different colors. So you can see that the gold one is a premium and it's oil-based, while the white one is acrylic. Now with the white, I found that it was thin, so you definitely need more than one coat, but because it has a drier consistency, it's easier to get some of those finer details. A lot of my wax seals have multiple levels of relief, especially areas that are raised up kind of at the halfway point, not quite as high, within some of this line work. And I found that this pen highlighted it really well. It really showed that off in a unique way, but again, it needed 2 coats. But overall, I found that both forms of pens, both the oil and acrylic, were great options and have my stamp of approval for use with wax seals in order to highlight the relief areas. After the pigment is dried, I haven't found that it rubs off or transfers anywhere, so it's a great way to embellish your wax seals. Now, before I leave you today, I wanted to make sure that you knew how to use some of these pre-made wax seals, because obviously if you stamp it on a mat like I did, it's not going to stick to your envelope. What you need are these double-sided stickers. Now, I like the version from Artisire, and I have not found one that I like as well. I've scoured Amazon, I've checked everywhere, and so far these are the thinnest but the strongest that I have been able to find. Now you do want to massage it onto your stamper really well to make sure it's stuck on there, but the game changer again is that thin profile. You don't want your placed wax seal to have any more of a lip than it naturally creates. If there's, some depth added because of the double-sided sticker, it could get caught in the machine if you try to send it through the mail and cause problems that way. Another frequently asked question is, do the stickers work with odd shapes where it doesn't go all the way to the edge? And the answer is yes. I found that it works just fine on my ovals or my rectangulars. Sometimes I just need to trim them to fit. As I close this tutorial out, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful and inspiring. I'd love to know in the comment section down below which style was your favorite. I keep picking one and then I go back and forth, especially as I'm looking at all of these beautiful things here. So make sure you let me know down in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in our next video. Until then, happy stamping.